Life is a long highway and I'm just doing the best I can.
Welcome to the Straight Line to Success. I am honored to be in here with my friend John Sterling, who happens to be one of the best salespeople that I've ever met. And John, you ran the biggest technology company in South Carolina. You managed over 100 salespeople. You exited from that company in a record. It was great. It's been very successful, and you just continued to succeed. Before that, of course, grew up playing some basketball, were a great athlete, and again, you've got so many great stories. You've helped me through the years, which I really appreciate. And so we're going to talk to our listeners, which are athletes, coaches, entertainers, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and other high achievers like you.
Good.
So welcome to the show, and take us back. Take us to your roots and growing up.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And your audience is so interesting to me since I've been all of those things to some degree in my life. So most people don't know I'm from Greenville, but I really grew up in Hartsville, South Carolina, a little tiny town, the Red Foxes of Hartsville. And, until I was 12, I lived there. And, I think it was a great little town for sports. They had great coaches that cared a lot about teaching kids how to do things. And it was tough. I mean, they taught you how to hit. They taught you how to, tackle people and jump on a loose ball and be just kind of ferocious in the way you played at age 10 years old. I don't think they're doing that today, but I got that, way back then. And when I came to Greenville and started competing up here in this league, it was like easy pickings to some degree. In that I had this kind of real tough background from that sports area. And, I just think it's interesting that was how important, if you're a coach or you're teaching kids, how important the lessons you teach them today can carry on through their whole life.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Now, I didn't know you were from Hartsville. I do have some friends from Hartsville, and they always talk to me about the road through success runs through Hartsville. But I love South Carolina, being from South Carolina, but that competitive nature, you credit that to some degree to your success. I love that.
I think so. It got me started at a very young age in football and basketball, some degree baseball. It carried right through. So that I moved to Greenville, and which is obviously was a great town then, but it's a really great town now.
Sure is.
Wonderful place to live and build businesses and such. But I eventually went to the Citadel.
Now let me ask you about that. So the Citadel, love the Citadel, but you're a glutton for responsibility. What drove you to a military school?
I think I was, I had some offers from different schools to play basketball, including the Citadel. And I just felt like in my case that if I went to the Citadel, I would probably move in a direction of more responsibility, being able to get up on time, be able to get your stuff done, kind of, having your act together.
Yeah.
And I thought I really needed that because I didn't really completely have my act together, which the second point is not really having your act together. I thought if I go this other direction, I don't think I'll even be a very good basketball player. I think there would be too many temptations for me at, let's say, a normal school, and I wouldn't have been, trying. I wanted to be a good basketball player. I wanted to be a successful D1 player, and I think if I'd have made the other decision in my case, I wouldn't have been moving in that direction. So one of your questions today is how do you take that straight line to success? Is figuring out, what decision do you make that gets you to where you're going the quickest? Not the one that's the most fun or whatever, but how do you get there the quickest?
Yeah, I like that. That's a good answer. And so, you competed in the Citadel D1 school. What about the Citadel would you attribute? I know there's sports and the military, but the leadership and the success that you've had. Tell us about that experience, and maybe if there's any memories you might have from those days that you want to share with us.
That was a great leadership moment. I swear, you don't learn that much in life. You hear a lot of things, a lot of stuff gets in your brain, but what you really take home is a few lessons. And one of it was like hitting people in Hartsville as a kid. I remember that. You know, you're just being tough.
Yeah.
But at the Citadel, I worked very hard to become a starter.
Okay.
So my sophomore year, I rode the pine my freshman year. I mean, nothing hurts worse than to be a great high school player.
Yeah.
And then go to a school and not get to play a single play, you know, for a whole year. You just lose everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, the next year I worked really hard to be a starter. I became a starter. And about 5 or 6 games in, I was playing pretty good, I thought. And Gerald Toney, who was the quarterback on the football team,
okay,
wonderful guy, great, wonderful man, he comes on the basketball team. And he's, you know, the first couple of practices, he's rusty, you know, he forgot how to shoot and everything. But after a couple of games, he's getting back up to speed. So after a 5th game, the coach calls me and Gerald into his office. This is Les Robinson.
Okay.
Remarkable coach.
Legend.
Citadel, East Tennessee, NC State, also athletic director at all 3 places. I mean, very rare someone does that.
Yeah.
He calls in the office, and I'm thinking, what the hell have I done wrong? What have we done wrong? And he goes, John, Gerald, I called you in here because watching the team play with Gerald in the game and John in the game, I think we can win more games if Gerald starts and you come off the bench instead of John starting and Gerald off the bench. I think we win more games that way. I just want to let you guys know that's what I'm going to do. And just for a second, it really hurt.
Yeah.
Like a gut punch. But the fact that he called a meeting, had it in, said why he was doing it, and that he had done it.
Yes.
I was like, I really respect that. You know, it was not chicken's way out. He didn't kind of slide into it.
Yeah.
He said what he was thinking, why he was doing it, and he did it. And I was fine with it. And it worked out great.
That's good.
So that was a hell of a leadership lesson.
That is a great leadership lesson. And that was your sophomore year. You'd worked hard to get to be a starter. You'd rode the pine your first year. That's rough. Put me in, Coach. Of course, you know, it turned out all right for you. You know, tell us a little bit about, you know, the competition in basketball from, you know, you went from high school to play in college. What was that like?
I think your high school kids will probably see this too, but it was huge.
Huge jump.
Huge jump. I mean, you go from being, you know, the best player on your team or in your league to being like the 11th best player on your team. And they're all, you know, the difference in age when you're like, let's say I went to college, I was 17 or 18, still very skinny, you know, and you're dealing with grown men that might be 22 years old. One of them had been an airborne ranger. He was like 24.
Wow.
And so you're just like, you're dealing with these. So anyway, it's a big difference. And I think now with the way they compete with AAU basketball and they're all playing against each other all the time, it's not that big of a difference in some cases because they've already played with a lot of them. But in my case, it was a big deal. And again, it required some fortitude to dig in and just keep trying to get better.
Yeah.
You know, stick with it. And over time, you know, becoming a starter and becoming the captain and, you know, having some good teams.
Yeah, well, and I love sports. I think sports is such a great foundation for competition, learning how to compete and, you know, to lose and to win. I think that, you know, you oftentimes, I think, learn more in the losses. And, you know, I got to ask you about, you know, you played against some really talented people.
Yeah.
But there's one in particular that you played against, Michael Jordan.
Yeah, Michael.
What was that like? And what year was that? I mean, what was
I think it
was it your senior year?
He was we played against them when he was a freshman and a sophomore.
Okay.
So 2 years. And I think freshman year is when they won the national championship.
Wow.
And the next year, NC State won it. I think it was either get backwards. But first of all, if somebody wants to see proof that I played against Michael, you can go to my LinkedIn page.
Okay.
And if you scroll down, there's a picture of me and Michael, and you can tell by the picture that one of them is the greatest player in the NBA and the other is a sales guy. So you can see that. But we go out to jump center against these guys, and it was Jordan, Sam Perkins, Worthy, Doherty, and Jimmy Black.
Wow.
Good point. And so there's only one other guy on my team who's even my size, another 6'7" guy, you know. And he looks at me and he goes, who do you want? And I said, I'll take Jimmy Black. I didn't want any part of the rest of them. But, back then, Coach Smith made them run kind of a semi-passing game and didn't want any stars. And, so they weren't like backing us down or wasn't Phi Slamma Jam or anything. They certainly could have been, because to try to guard Jordan, to try to get a hand on him, was amazing. You try to like one time he was here and I was trying to on a free throw trying to block him out.
Yeah,
nothing. You could. He was gone. He was so fast.
Wow,
that he would like dart one way and go the other and dart the other, and pretty soon he's around you and you think you're blocking him out. So he had some kind of he had so many things, but this quickness he had. I don't think anyone could ever stop him.
That's incredible. That's an incredible experience to play against. And, of course, some of the greatest basketball players of all time you got to compete against. Yeah. That's pretty incredible. And you were a great player as well. You ended up leaving the Citadel and playing professional basketball. Yeah. Where did tell us about that?
I went to Ireland. So I went to my coach, Coach Robinson, and I said, Coach, if I want to play overseas, how would that look? And, I wasn't even the best player on my team at that point. And I figured, being a sales guy, I would just ask and find out how it would look.
Yeah.
Is it possible? What would it look like?
That's great.
And he goes, you want to play? I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, let me check on it. And so the next day, I went by to see him, and he goes, okay, I got a guy, used to be coach at Appalachian State. He's seen you play. He's a coach in Scotland now. He says, if you get over there on your own nickel, you can play on his team and he'll pay you this much money and whatever. So that was my initial kind of third party, not even a handshake contract.
Wow. And
I just showed up and played in Scotland for a game or so. And then the guy says, listen, because we have a problem here with the contracts. He goes, but I got another place for you to play in Ireland.
Okay.
So I went to Ireland. And that's where I got a good team in Dublin and played with them, which, I'm delighted to have done it. It's a pretty cool story. I got to see a lot of Ireland, Northern and Ireland itself.
Yep.
But the lesson for the people is just the power of asking, the power of showing up, right? Just asking, what would this look like? Could we make this happen? If we made it happen, how would it be? It wasn't like I was Michael Jordan saying, what team am I going to play on?
Right.
I'm like, scoring 8 points a game at the Citadel, when we finished 500.
Yeah.
Still ask the question, where could I play in Europe? What would that look like?
Yeah.
And then to have the craziness just to go.
Yeah.
Show up, see what happens.
That's fantastic. Now talk about, I've heard you talk about your college days and playing in college and the system that you ran in college in America.
Yeah. America.
How did that compare to Ireland? Well,
in high school, they let us score, right? So we would score, 20, 30 points a game.
Yep.
And again, we played in a small league, so that wasn't not that much to brag on, but we did score a lot of points.
Yep.
In college, at Citadel, they ran kind of the Bobby Knight or the Princeton offense, the passing game where you have to pass it. Maybe someone gets a wide open jumper or a layup.
Okay.
So very little creativity, to how we score. And so that was, for many of us, that was a little frustrating, but, just the way that we competed. But so that's why we didn't score a lot of points. And so I get to Ireland, and I find out once I get there that there's only one. They only allow one American per team.
Okay.
So you got all these rugby players, and one American, and they're like, "Hey, mate, so here's the deal. You're the American. We're paying you. You got to shoot every time." I'm like, I'll be happy to shoot every time. So the first game, I got like 40-something points.
Wow.
And I was like, this is going to be a lot of fun. So it was just like, in that league, some of the other leagues have different rules, but our league, if you were the other American, we were just like playing against each other and kind of playing matador defense to some degree. Like you shoot, I shoot, have a beer after.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So 40 points, 44 points. You went from scoring 4 to 8 points to 44 points.
Right.
That's incredible.
It was wonderful.
And was the athleticism and the nature of the competition there, was there any difference?
Yeah, I mean, they were good athletes.
Yeah.
Okay, they were good athletes, but they were more rugby people. Okay, just because that's how they grew up.
Yep.
Like we grew up playing basketball, we wouldn't know how to play rugby.
Right.
And so they were still learning. Like when I'd run a back door on somebody, they were just like completely fooled. They didn't know what a backdoor play was or a pick and roll.
Yeah.
They were flummoxed with those concepts. So that was different. And then also at halftime, we would sit down, waiting for the coach to come in and give a little halftime spiel, and my teammates would be reaching into their bags, pulling out Guinness beers and cigarettes. So they were having a real Irish break, So it was very different, but I really enjoyed it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
A little Irish, a cold beer and a cigarette at halftime.
But not too many, because they're athletes.
I've had some people talk about the Canadian Football League having a beer, in the locker room, having a keg on tap. So it must be, the foreigners have a little bit different viewpoint on athleticism.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you played pro basketball. What an incredible experience, and got that by asking, how did you transition from being a pro basketball player to getting into tech sales?
Okay, well, couple of things there. First of all, I had to decide what I want to do. And since I didn't have a degree in engineering or architecture or wasn't going to law school, I figured sales is probably my best entry point into business.
What was your degree in? It's
political science.
Okay.
Political science. And I thought sales was the best entry point to business. I couldn't say I want to be a CEO or whatever. You kind of get in the door with sales.
Yep.
And I said, what do I want to sell? I want to sell something that's going to be burgeoning, growing, a good field to be in, which at the time and probably still today is technology. So this was, mid 80s. Apple had only been alive for a couple years, maybe since, I guess, the late 70s. IBM PC just come out. Software was just really starting to be an interesting thing for businesses and people alike. And so I said, I'm going to sell technology, and I'm going to do it in the place where it's all happening, which at the time and still today is Silicon Valley. California. So I made the decision, I'm going to be a salesperson, I'm going to sell technology, and I'm going to go where the action is, which was Silicon Valley, like Cupertino, Palo Alto, all those places. And I just drove out there and started knocking on doors and networking with people, and ended up getting a sales job and had a few different sales jobs and learned a lot about how to sell technology while I was out there.
So let me stop you. So you said you got in your car and drove to California.
That's right.
And just got in the mix.
That's right. Just like Jed Clampett.
That's classic.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, how long did it take you? How long were you out there? Did you have anybody out there? I mean, did you have friends out there, a mentor out there, or you just went out there?
I didn't have much. I had a second cousin and her husband, and he was a doctor. And so we would go see them every couple of weeks, like on a Sunday, and just have a nice lunch or something. But I didn't have any other contacts. But it's funny, once you get one, like if I came to Greenville, didn't know anybody.
Right.
But I met you.
Right.
We played pickleball together or something. And I said, David, could you help me find someone who's good at selling? You'd say, hey, hold on for a second. Ting, 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 ting. 4 or 5 people.
Right.
Hopefully I'm on the list.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Need my first.
And then they're going to meet those people. And then say the same thing happens from them. You don't need many people.
So that's what happened. That's how you got it done.
Yeah.
So you started out in California, got in the door, started selling.
Yeah. So I learned how to sell software over the phone. And at the time, back here, that was no one even tried that. It was like, if you want to sell software, you've got to load it up on the computer, take it to the client, show it to them, make them comfortable. And out there, they were just much quicker. They were just like, hey, software's going to help you do this. We'll send it out there. You try it. If you don't like it, send it back. And, it's just kind of a quicker transaction.
Yeah.
So I learned how to do it. And when I came back here, again, a good decision. I'm going to leave out all the bad decisions, but a good decision was I said, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to find myself a technology business that I can buy or one that I can buy a part of.
Okay.
At the very least. I'm really glad I didn't do it myself because, if you're, let's say you're 25 years old, like I was 25 years old at the time, I had all the interest in the world, all the ambition in the world to run my own business. But if you don't know what you're doing,
yeah,
that's a dumb idea. That's like saying I'm going to be a parachute guy, but I'm not going to pay any attention to how to pack the parachute.
Yeah.
You can want to do something, but you need to prepare a little bit.
Sure.
So since I wasn't ready, thankfully, I found a guy, Larry Blackwell, who had a 4-person, small little software company, pretty much exactly what I was looking for. A good little product, a couple of engineers, no salesperson. And I said, let me come be your salesperson. And if this works, I want an option to buy part of the company.
All right.
Because I didn't have any money. So I needed an option.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I said I want a 1-year option. So by the time the year came up, I'd saved up enough money where I could figure out a way to buy my part of it.
Oh, smart.
So I found a good product, good engineers, and I started selling it. And as we started to make money, we hired another salesperson, then another person, then another person. Then pretty soon I was a full-time manager. And then, we ended up, fast forward 20 years, I'll skip a lot of the stuff, but we ended up with 100 salespeople. We ended up being a public company. We ended up, having offices all over the world, from right here in little old Greenville. We had offices in China, in Australia, Japan, all over Europe, Latin America, Argentina. So,
and let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
So international, you had 100 salespeople, and you have all these. Was there ever a vision growing up that was this something you thought about? Hey, I want to have an international company selling technology. Was that part of your vision, or did it just happen?
I didn't have that. I would recommend a very specific vision. The more specific you can make it, the easier it is to make it happen.
Yeah.
My vision was only I want to be a wildly successful entrepreneur.
Okay.
And so I knew I wanted to do that, and I didn't really know what that looked like. I didn't know whether it meant international or not, whether it was technology or not, but I wanted to do that. I think I'd grown up, reading Inc. magazine and Fortune and Forbes and all that stuff.
Right.
And so I wanted to be that kind of person. But I'll say for the listeners, the more specific you can make it, the better.
And let's talk about in terms of developing yourself. You developed yourself in California. You had that opportunity. You came back. You brought some tech sales savvy that Larry Blackwell and you partnered in.
Yep.
Incredible. I love the story. I would see DataStream, fastest growing company in South Carolina. You hired one of my best friends, Todd Lorbach.
Yeah.
And he, has a lot of respect. So to a lot of the folks that you ended up managing through the years and mentoring, and you just have a gift at all that. How did you develop that gift? I guess that's my question. 100 salespeople, you come in with one.
In terms of personal leadership, I think some of that had to come from sports. I was usually the captain of my team, and trying to lead people to do things versus telling them what to do.
Okay. And tell me what you mean about that. Lead versus telling.
Yeah,
how do you make that distinction?
I think we had an event. This is kind of a crazy event, but I'll give you 2 examples. One is if you're on a basketball team and there's a loose ball, and I'm the first person on it, and I'm the captain, then the rest of them are getting the message that they need to get on that ball too.
Gotcha.
By example. Versus me just saying, everyone get on that loose ball. No, I'm not sitting over here watching y'all play. I'm in it with you.
You're in there.
Yeah. So fast forward that to a business example. We're opening up a new territory in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
And we decided, everyone, Todd Lorbach, that was going to be his territory, and a bunch of other people were all in Greenville because it was Christmas time. And it was Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve. And I said, okay, this is for volunteers only, but Christmas Eve, everyone show up at the office. I think it was 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or something. Yeah, because that was the 12-hour difference. So we want to call all the American, owned companies in Saudi Arabia that we can find. And so it'll be Christmas Day, and they'll know that we're calling on Christmas Eve, saying we're opening up new territory, we want Todd to come meet you, just trying to set appointments. So we probably had 30 people there.
How about that?
Christmas Eve, until they probably stayed till, I guess, 1 in the morning, and then we went to Waffle House. And then people went home to get ready for Christmas. But that's an example. I don't think that really netted any business. But everyone who was there knows that this was a crazy thing that we did, and we all did it together. And John didn't tell us to do it. He was there right there with us, making it happen. So
team bonding.
So I don't know, man. I think part of it comes from sports, and some of it's got to be natural too. I don't know.
And so, you did have an incredible amount of success. You guys were able to bring in people that could sell. You were able to, obviously it has to do with the product, but, sales is a lot of it is selling. It's the product. You got to have a product, but, you're managing 100 salespeople. What are some of the things that you learned in that process that you could teach us?
Yeah.
And was there any sort of testing that you did or any of those kinds of things? How'd you find them?
So one of the tricks to being able to manage a big successful team is having the right people. Okay. We learned the hard way, but we eventually learned how to profile the best looking salesperson for us.
Okay.
So let's just say we had 10 salespeople, and we looked at all of them, and we said, okay, let's cluster the ones that are doing real well, and let's cluster the ones that are doing poorly. What are the attributes of the ones that are doing well? They went to Clemson, Furman, Citadel, Walford. They were leaders. They're athletes. They're competitive. They're easy to talk to. They're campus leaders, and they have this personality profile testing service that we use.
Okay.
That's similar. So I can find a lot of people, over at the Clemson campus that I like, but how many of those fit all those profiles? And when you get all of them, you're like, okay, pick them up, put them over here. That one's going to work.
Okay.
And so, for our kind of selling, we were selling to maintenance people who maintain buildings and factories and stuff like that. We found out exactly what we needed to do that. I, myself, would not have fit that profile. I was good at leading them, but it wasn't the same. It was a little bit different. So one of the tricks, if you're the leader, is to find the right people and don't fall into the trap that most businesses that I help fall into, which is, well, I've got these 8 people, John. Can you help make them all great? And the answer is probably not.
Gotcha.
Because most of them aren't fitting your perfect profile. Let's just get the right people. And it's also a favor to the people that don't fit to go find where they do fit. So in terms of what I would say to the individuals, I would say, first of all, take care of yourself. Before you even think about getting a job, make sure that you have yourself under control.
Okay.
You're healthy. You have a good exercise plan. You have a good nutrition plan. You're drinking enough water, getting some sunlight, getting some sleep. All those things together mean you're going to wake up in the morning feeling pretty good and ready to take on the day. If you're waking up in the morning with a hangover or dehydrated or don't feel good in your clothes or whatever it is, you're not going to be as effective as if you did. So I'd say take care of yourself is the number one thing to get ready to be a salesperson. Another thing is to figure out what you're into. What are your hobbies? What do you love to do? What do you like to follow? Sometimes we'll get a sales rep who's just fallen asleep during sales training, but ask them about Clemson football and they wake up.
Yeah.
And so I want them to be awake with whatever they choose to do. If you're a Clemson football nut, in fact, I've got a story for you. You know Tony Morrell.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Tony was a sales rep for us.
All right.
Yeah, and his wife, Melissa, was she had marketing at DataStream way back when. So Tony was a young guy as a sales rep, and he was a good rep.
Right.
But something, I could just tell when I talked to him, he wasn't completely into it. And I could tell by talking to him that he was completely into Gamecock football.
Yep.
He really wanted to talk about the Gamecocks. But the sales, he's like, yeah, it's going pretty good, pretty good. And so we had a talk one day, and I said, man, if you just are this crazy about Gamecock football, then figure out a way to do something with it. Sure enough. What's he got? What's his site called now? Is it Gamecock Central?
Okay, yeah.
One of those or something?
Yeah.
So he's got his own business. He's got an internet site where he does nothing but Gamecock football, which is exactly what he ought to be doing.
Yeah.
So find your thing, and then whatever you're going to do, whether you're in sales or marketing or law or whatever, try to be in that ecosystem of what you really love.
That passion.
Yeah.
Life's too short to do some drudgery.
Right. So I could teach someone some tricks of selling.
Yep. But
if you're selling something, if you're selling like curtains or something, you don't like fabric, that's drudgery. Yeah. So, yeah, I'd say find something you like. I think it's important, we've talked about this a little bit, to find a mentor. Yeah. Find someone in the business. Like, for example, if somebody was just getting out of law school and they wanted to do, kind of a sports agent, sports attorney kind of thing like you do, then imagine, how helpful that would be to be able to pick your brain, as needed as time goes on. You can tell them what to do, what not to do, what to look out for. Don't talk to that guy, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So getting the mentor is good. Another piece of it is, if you were in, let's say, if you were a doctor, then a couple times a year you'd have to get recertified in certain things or learn certain things. It's just, you just have to, because you're a doctor, right? Right. You got to know what you're doing. You can't just become a doctor and just never get any more training. Well, it's the same with sales. Man, there's so much great information out there to help salespeople get better. You've got to get on a regular schedule, either going to a class or a web class or listening to people or seeing your sales mentor, whatever you're doing. It's up to you to kind of be your own kind of choreographer of what you're going to learn. Right. Because if you just wait for your company to do it or whatever, you're just going to get stale. So I highly recommend that you commit to kind of a lifetime of learning.
So you keep on learning, and you've gotten some mentors. I know you've had some mentors along the way, and you just recommended that we get mentors. You've had some mentors, I think, that you paid that were like consultants, and then other mentors. I mean, tell us about, how did you find your mentors?
Yeah. Well, I would say there's three of them that have been very important. Two of them were paid, and one of them was just a friend. But the paid ones, we were looking for somebody to help me figure out how to get these salespeople selling more, which is the call I get today all the time. Okay. Like, these salespeople, they won't get to work on time. They won't prospect. They won't get their proposals done. They discount too quickly. I mean, they all say the same thing. Yeah. And I was saying that at the time. And so I was looking around, and actually someone found this guy, Bill Lee, who's a wonderful man, still lives in Greenville. And Bill had built, as the sales guy, he had built a really big business here in town called Builder March and sold it. So he was helping new companies like ours at the time. And he's the one who taught me how to figure out what the ideal profile was for our sales rep. Okay. And that, he told me some other stuff too, but that was the most important thing. That helped me. Another guy we hired was Al Reese, R-I-E-S. And we had seen that he had been the consultant for a really successful software company in Dallas that had sold. Okay. And I talked to the owner of the company. I called him. I said, what is it you guys did to be so damn successful? Again, making the call, right? There you go, yep. And he said, he goes, we hired this guy, Al Reese. So he would come once a year, and he charges a ton of money, and he would tell us what to do, and we would just go do it. And I'm like, that sounds good. So I told my partner Larry about it, and he's like, okay, let's do it. And anyway, the guy comes, he listens to us, yammer on for a day about our business, and all he did was ask questions. He was so good. Just ask questions. What about this? What about this? By the next morning, he had sent us a 1-page document with like 7 things on it. He goes, if I was you, I would do this. And he's like, I would claim to be the leader in the space.
Okay.
Just claim it. And we're like, we're not really the leaders. Just claim it. No one's claimed it yet. He goes, the first person to claim it wins.
Okay.
He said, go public. Really? We can do that? He goes, yeah, you can do that. He said, go international. He says, stop using advertising, use PR. So, yeah, I can't remember the last couple. But then he was such a wonderful guy. I said, well, Al, can you come back maybe in a week or so and help us do some of these? He's like, no. He goes, I don't do any of it, John. I'm just telling you what to do. You have to figure out how to do it. And we literally, a couple of yokels in Greenville, we just said, all right, well, let's just start with number 1. And we literally went down the list and did every one of them.
That's awesome.
And that was we were at $5 million a year in sales at that time.
Okay.
And then by the time we were at 100. And we have him to thank for a lot of that. And then the last mentor, still a mentor today, is T. Hooper. And T was just old enough, maybe 10 or 12 years older than me. And he was at the Citadel, basketball, tennis star, Hall of Fame, and then ended up starting or acquiring multiple businesses in Greenville, being very successful. And so he's been a great mentor over the years for, connecting with people.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do, what not to do.
T. Hooper, incredible. Great leader, Citadel alum, about 12 years older, and probably not quite as expensive as these other guys, and probably a little more easier for you to just kind of relate to and was there for you.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, and he had technology, similar copiers and those types of things, right?
Yeah. He said he had one business that was pure software. I forget what it's called, but he had a software business, a big distribution company, the big copier company. He's got a Find Great People. Yeah. This is one right now that he's got, which is a heck of a placement company. So yeah, he's got a nose. It's like getting rebounds. He's got a nose for it, Yeah.
That's incredible. Hall of Famer, basketball and tennis at the Citadel, right? Sure. Isn't that what you told me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's incredible. So mentors, I agree. Finding a mentor is incredible. And, that sounds like almost a divine mentor right there. That's fantastic. Now, talk a little bit about, you took DataStream, you took it to, 100 million in sales, you sell it, you have an exit, and then, what did you do next?
Yeah. Well, this might be a lesson learned. I mean, I was 45. Okay. And I thought I was going to retire. I had a year non-compete.
45.
Had this money, and it was just horrible. I mean, nothing to do, no goal. I lost my team. Everything was gone. Yeah. Except for some money in the bank. Right. So what? And so I spent a couple of months like waking up late, going to the club, hitting some balls, eating lunch, taking a nap. I mean, I can't tell you what I did for those 3 months. But anyway, I eventually righted the ship and said I need to find a business to buy, something else to do. So I looked at 30 companies, and I bought a software company called Foxfire, which I still own today. All right. Which does software for big warehouses. I've got someone running it for me because I'm focused on, what really my calling is, which is the noob school. Okay. So, there's nothing I like more than, training brand new salespeople, helping them get off to a good start, or helping business owners kind of build that nucleus of a team that can grow. Yep. And I know exactly how to do it. You've done it. I've done it. So I've got, a big group of people that come every week for the training, and I've got, 3 or 4 customers that I work with at one time where I'm working with them every week trying to make their sales grow.
That's incredible. So you took what you knew at DataStream. Yeah. You tried being a bum for 90 days and, realized that wasn't going to. That was a horrible bum. That wasn't going to. Yeah. And you're now a sales expert where you're helping others. You've written this book, Sales for Noobs, which I love this book. It talks about some of those lessons that you talked about, profiling, self-awareness in yourself, which is incredible. So talk a little bit about if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah. Well, the easiest way is John at schoolfornoobs.com. schoolfornoobs.com.
Okay.
Schoolfornoobs.com. Just email me. But to get the book, you can go to Amazon, Sales for Noobs, and this gives you everything that I know about how to get started well in sales. And I'm working on a new one for business owners.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of the same thing, except for it's what I would tell a business owner to do.
That's fantastic. Now, I want to take you a little bit sideways if I can.
Sure.
Because, you got into playing the saxophone, you got into music, and so I think that is incredible. The story is incredible.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the record that I got from you, and but how did that happen? I mean, how'd you end up learning the sax and playing the sax, and what do you think? How did that factor into your success?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'll start kind of at the end. When you take on a new thing, whether it's running a marathon or learning how to play the saxophone, it's another thing for your confidence. So, like if you get to the point where you can play the saxophone, you can make a CD, you've got a band, you play, people pay you, to play, so you're okay.
Incredible.
You're okay. And so the next time you have another challenge to take on, whether it's a new business or a problem you have to solve, you just have a little more confidence to take that on. So I think people that are able to do multiple things and have the discipline to overcome to get there, it just makes them stronger when that strength is needed. So that's one thing. Now, why did I do it? I finally quit playing basketball, like late 20s, and I just love the saxophone.
Okay.
Always loved to listen to it. It just enamors me. And so I, in my typical quick start fashion, one day I said, well, that's it. No more basketball. And I drove to Pecknell, and I said, I need a saxophone. I need a teacher. Let's get going. And they looked at me funny, but they filled the stuff out. I got started, and it was the wrong saxophone. It was the wrong teacher, but I had begun.
Yeah.
And, since then, every time something doesn't work, we just try to do a different thing. And now I finally, the last 4 or 5 years, I finally got the right teacher. It's Edwin McCain's saxophone guy, Craig Shields.
Oh, yeah. Craig is awesome.
And having a professional show you how to do it. It's like the difference between you telling someone how to be a sports agent and a teacher. He just says, oh, don't worry about that. Here's the thing, change of this, whatever. He just kind of shortcuts me through everything.
Yeah.
So I guess the point of that is you want to aim to keep trying to get to your goal. Don't worry about it changing. Just keep changing until you find the right person or the right thing you're looking for to get there.
Yeah.
So I love playing. It's also helped with public speaking. No one generally likes to public speak.
Yeah.
But if you get out there, on the sidewalk with strangers walking by and you're playing songs, it's no big deal to step up to a podium, and talk to somebody.
Yeah. I've enjoyed watching you on social media all over the country, playing your sax, and, of course, down here busking in downtown Greenville. I'm going to apply for my busking license, and I've been threatening to do it for quite some time, but looking forward to an opportunity to play with you.
That's awesome.
Now, again, we could talk to you all day long. I really appreciate you being in here and talking with me. Is there any sort of question that I hadn't asked you that I should have, or something you want to add to?
Yeah, I'll bring one thing up that might be helpful to some of the youngsters in particular is, like when you and I were growing up, we'll talk about alcohol. Alcohol was a very normal, it was kind of abnormal not to drink alcohol. Everyone was like boozing it up, and you would, go to hard practice and have a big game and then, drink. And, that, I don't think it's such a good idea in retrospect. I've only been maybe, I think, 6 years since I stopped. And I just stopped. I just was working with like kind of a coach, and they're like, you like to drink, don't you? I'm like, yeah, party, work hard, play hard. Right?
Yeah.
They said, well, have you ever thought about just trying it without it? And I was like, not really, but I will. And, I tried it without it. And boy, what a difference. Just how you wake up in the morning, you kind of the physical health, you just feel healthier. I've lost weight. And your productivity goes through the moon. I mean, my productive time when I was like a normal above average drinker, in the evening, it was just, there was no more production.
Right.
It was like have a couple of beers, relax, I think you fool yourself into thinking that's okay.
Right.
And now, I'm doing stuff until I decide to go to bed. So they just might want to consider, if they're getting sucked into the vortex of it's cool to drink, it's normal to drink, consider trying it without it for a month and just seeing how that feels.
Yeah.
Because it might make your life a lot better.
So you have found that life without alcohol is better for John Sterling.
Much better.
I mean, I hear you on the. It was sort of glamorized when we were growing up,
yeah.
and those habits really do affect you, no matter what you're doing. So that's great. That's great. Well, John, again, I appreciate you being here.
Sure, man. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to The Straight Line to Success. Copyright 2026 Wyatt Sports and Entertainment, LLC. All rights reserved. Visit www.tslts.com and join the TSLTS Insider for exclusive content and updates.
We're doing the best we can. Everybody do your best. Come on, come on. Do your best. Do your best. The best you can.